Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I will be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night, we talked about no civil war in America, and it's vitally important that we do not give our masters what they really want from us: violence. See, our masters think of violence, hatred, fear, cruelty, the way you and I think about ice cream and cake. It's dessert, it's a joy, it's happiness. To us, of course, it's the end of days. It's the worst possible thing we could have. It's the worst possible thing we can imagine. But to our masters, violence, hatred, cruelty is the preferred way of life. It's dessert. And the moment we react with violence against their hatred, their treatment of us, they will feel justified and can justify it to the rest of the human race that, gee golly gosh darn, the cattle are acting up. It's time to call in our real army, which is the United Nations, and come into the United States and have a prolonged civil war. We can't give them that. We can't. It comes down to choose not to serve. When Barack Obama in the morning calls for a cup of coffee, don't say no, don't pull a gun, just don't give him his coffee. When Ben Bernanke needs to be driven to a convention where he's going to yet again announce that he is this great genius with our money, he can't drive himself, he doesn't know how. He calls for his car. Don't show up. When there's a riot, and they stage all these riots now, how can you have a riot if nobody shows up? These people, these creatures, our masters, they'll starve to death in a room full of food because they don't know how to boil an egg. They don't know how to toast bread. They can't even dress themselves. Leave them alone. No violence of any kind. Choose not to serve. You don't even have to say no. Just don't do anything they want. And what they want is civil war. They're looking forward to it. They're planning it. It's on the agenda. They also want civil war in Europe. Again, don't give them anything that they want. This is why tonight I thought we would chat about all governments are corrupt. It's pretty much, if you're if you're even slightly above room temperature, as it were, you are cognizant and aware that all governments, at least in the West, are completely corrupt. They don't work for the people. They work for the masters, the corporations, the bankers. It's pretty hard not to see that. Even on mainstream news now, it's impossible if you have any kind of sense of reality. Why is that? How is it that all of our governments in the West, I don't know anything about Eastern governments, so I cannot comment, but in the West, in the United States, in South America, in Europe, definitely in New Zealand, in Australia, definitely in Canada, and of course the UK, which is separate from Europe and doesn't even seem to be part of the EU, I'm still trying to figure that part out, are all corrupt. And the corruption grows every single day. It gets back to, I think, the fact that our masters are parasites. And without us, without you and me, they can't get their coffee in the morning. They can't get driven to a convention. They can't press their own suit because they've never gone to the dry cleaners. They can't get new underwear because they don't know where the Target is. They've never handled money in their lives. They've never stood in line at the bank. They've never boiled an egg. They've never made a pot of coffee. So why do we need them? Why are we letting them tell us what to do? All governments are corrupt because liars lie. Now we all lie. Honey, do these pants make me look fat? Do you like my new haircut? And said, it's wonderful. That's a lie we can live with because, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But my experience with liars, just plain old-fashioned, in the guts liars, goes from before I was even born. I grew up with CIA and U.S. Army, Air Corps intelligence street thugs, child rapers, child molesters, gun runners, money launderers, everything from petty theft to extortion to money laundering. And these guys lied about everything. And I keep seeming to run into them. I ran into a fellow who thought he was a CIA agent. Turned out he was a CIA asset. And he had the same speech patterns, the same, I'm trying to think how to say, the CIA likes to hire a certain kind of thug. They like to recruit certain types of bullies. And I know in the men, I don't know how they hire women, but I know in the men are all mama's boys. These are grown men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, who are still only 5-year-old children. And like all 5-year-old children, they believe that their mama is always right. They believe that their mama can solve any problems. And they believe their mama when she tells them how wonderful they are, how they're heroes, they're great leaders, they're God's gift to the world, and how the rest of us are nothing. And so you've got these grown men, and the women are a different story. The women just tend to be brutal and vicious. By the age of 5, most of the bones in my body were broken, and they were broken by women who just pounded me into unconsciousness and then went on to break my bones. The men were much simpler. They raped children, they raped me, they raped little girls, they raped little boys. They were just thugs. They were mindless. They were 5 years old. So what we're looking at here in the concept of all governments are corrupt is that we have a bunch of 5-year-old children who've been told how wonderful they are by their corporate owners, who are, of course, owned themselves by the masters, by the bankers. And they see nothing wrong with lying, because to them, it's a game. And the game, they think, is being played by their rules. They, of course, are just being used, and they'll be discarded along with the rest of us, but they don't see that because they're 5 years old. And what little 5-year-old child doesn't want to be a superhero? What little 5-year-old who's arrogant and spoiled, rotten and mean and selfish has no problem hurting others, as long as they themselves are not hurt? And I've seen this over and over and over again. Liars lie. Little children who are spoiled and rotten and vicious and cruel and arrogant, they lie because it's a game. Because as long as they're not hurt, they don't care who is. These are what is running the countries in the West. In the United States, each state of the Union is a sovereign, independent nation. We've forgotten that because not one of us has read the Constitution. Not one of us has read the Declaration of Independence. And none of us have ever heard of the Articles of Confederation, which clearly state that every state in the Union of the United States of America, what was a constitutional republic, each state in the Union is its own nation. The only role the federal government has is to control commerce. We all have the same dollar bills. We have all the same street lights. We all have all the same stop signs. That's it. That's all the power the federal government has. That's all the power Washington, D.C. has. It has no other power. Unless, of course, everyone in Washington, D.C. is only 5 years old and thinks that this is a fun game and that they are superheroes. In Europe and Greece, and I have to again apologize, I originally numbered these video episodes by the date, thinking foolishly that I'd either have a good job again, or corporate sponsors, or investors. So even though tonight's show looks like it was, the file name shows April 21st, the reality is it's the last day of June. So I'm a little late, I apologize, but it really gets down to money. Today, June, say the month of June, 2011, last day of June. About a week ago, as far as I can tell, the government of Greece faced a military uprising. And I can't pull all of these stories together because it's virtually impossible. I can't find any hard facts. Every time I think I find some hard facts, the page won't load. So something's going on. But something happened in the country of Greece about a week ago. And as far as I can tell, the military was about to seize the government because the military did not want the civilian government to sell out the country of Greece to the bankers. As Argentina was sold out many years ago to British bankers, and since the whole country's been destroyed. Apparently the civilian government in Greece was going to turn over and make deals with the bankers that would put the people of Greece in debt till the end of time. Whether the end of time is next year or 100 years from now, the country of Greece was doomed. The civilian government, again, as far as I can tell, agreed to step down, agreed they would not sell out the country of Greece to the bankers. A week went by. The civilian government sold out the country of Greece to the bankers. Now I can't figure out what's going on in Greece, but all governments are corrupt. Germany has been an ally of the United States since even before World War II. The fact that the United States of America actually funded Hitler and his takeover of Germany. No one seems to remember that anymore, but that's okay. Germany has been a very close ally of the United States since then, and its government has followed in lockstep everything the United States thieves and liars have said. Although Germany lately seems to be standing up on their own, thank God. In the Czech Republic, the government has a 90% disapproval rate. Can you imagine? Only 10% of the people in the Czech Republic actually like or don't care what their government's doing. 90% of the Czech people want their government gone. And thank the gods that in the Czech Republic they still have unions and people who are close to the earth and who will stand together. They shut down the country of the Czech Republic last week for a day, and will keep doing that until the criminal government is overthrown or driven out. Knock on wood, let's hope that happens. In the United States, you and I voted unions out of existence because our masters convinced us that unions were bad. You and I have been giving away our rights in the United States for at least 40 years that I've been watching because we're stupid and we're lazy. And I no longer have sympathy for you. The country of Sweden fascinates me because it seems that the Swedish government has also dropped into lockstep with the U.S. government. And nothing shows this more clearly than that they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to a total unknown, a nobody, a nothing, a guy by the name of Barack Obama, who'd never done anything in the world at all. They gave him a Nobel Peace Prize because their masters in the U.S. told them to. Barack Obama, another liar, told us that he would stop all of the wars that little King George and his father, old King George, started. That was a lie. Barack Obama has created more wars than little King George and his old man combined. Why would the country of Sweden give the Nobel Peace Prize to a nobody, a nothing, Barack Obama? He'd never done anything at all, but he got a Nobel Peace Prize. That's just kind of bizarre. The country of New Zealand, as you know, I spent 3 years in New Zealand. I'd been lured there, as so many other high-end professionals have been, and I was financially destroyed, emotionally destroyed. But New Zealand's a wonderful example of social engineering. It's an example of what our masters want our world to be. They have something called the tall poppy syndrome. Poppy, P-O-P-P-Y. Again, you don't need me for this. Look up New Zealand, keyword search, New Zealand tall poppy syndrome. And then just for the heck of it, look up keyword search New Zealand girl gangs. Look up keyword search New Zealand gang rapes. Look up keyword search New Zealand rape of Asian women. New Zealand is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. Last time I checked, 9 European countries had posted New Zealand as a no-travel zone. They actually were telling their people, do not go to New Zealand for any reason. It's too dangerous. But the good thing about New Zealand, it's an island. It's a couple little islands in the middle of nowhere. And so as a crucible is something that burns very hot. And if you want to burn the impurities out of something, say metal, you heat it until it's so hot that anything that is not, say, gold or silver simply evaporates. It's just so hot. All that's left is the pure essence of whatever it is you're working with. New Zealand is great for social engineering because, first of all, they speak English, or a version of English. And our masters seem obsessed with the English language. Any country that speaks English as its primary language is a target for them. Other expats that I have met have seen this phenomena as well as I have. The farther away you get from countries where English is the primary language, the more normal people are. People begin to behave like people and less like raving psychotic lunatics. But New Zealand's a wonderful place to have this sort of social engineering crucible burning out the impurities thing, because most New Zealanders have passports. And if you're intelligent and hardworking and have any kind of reality about you at all, you leave New Zealand. And for the last 40 years, the best and the brightest have been fleeing New Zealand. Who does that leave behind when all the best and the brightest have left? It leaves the morons. So New Zealand truly is the future of the United States. The United States has the problem of it's really, really big. And last time I checked, less than 2% of Americans had passports. So it's hard to drive out the best and the brightest in a country with 300 million people. They're going to tend to stick around. But our masters are working on that. They're making sure that the best and the brightest don't have jobs. Crushing them, taking away their livelihoods, their homes, everything they own in the world, just destroying their souls. Which is why in the United States, they're trying so hard to foreclose on everybody's home. Anyone who's a homeowner is a target. Traditionally, homeowners were the best and the brightest. They actually worked hard to make money so they could buy a house. That's why in the United States foreclosures continue nonstop, because our masters want to destroy the essence of anybody who's hardworking. Your home. They want you homeless. They want you penniless. They want you living in the streets. But you own a home. You worked hard for it. You put money in it. You worked hard at your job. You wanted to achieve. You wanted to succeed. You're a target. Take away someone's home, destroy their home, take away everything they own in the world. There's a company in California, for example, that does nothing, mind you, but bulldoze down houses that have been foreclosed upon. They're not even pretending to sell the house anymore. They're not even pretending to collect your belongings to try to sell them to get some of that money back, because money is no longer the goal. Hatred is the goal. Power is the goal. So this company in California, I'm sure they're in every state in the union by now, this company does nothing but bulldoze down houses that have been foreclosed upon. They don't even bother to try to, save the refrigerator, the toaster, the washing machine, and try to get some money for it. That's not the goal. The goal is power. The goal is hatred. So if you are bright and hardworking and honest and loyal and faithful, you really want to make a difference, you're a target. That's it. Not hard. All governments are corrupt. I've lived, I think, in a dozen different countries around the world, and all governments are corrupt. But what it really gets down to, and this is why I left the United States, this is why I fled New Zealand. You don't have to worry so much about how corrupt the government is. What you have to worry about is how corrupt the population is. In the United States, and from my point of view, of course, it was the women who capitulated to the government horrors. The women were convinced that they could hurt anybody they wanted to and get away with it. And in the United States, they can. Hurting men was fun. Hurting each other was fun. It was a disease, a sickness that would spread from woman to woman. It was spread by Cosmopolitan magazine. It was spread by television. It was spread by music and other magazines. It was in the newspapers. Men were stupid. They're to blame for everything that's ever happened to you. Hurt them because it's fun. I couldn't take it anymore. So I fled to New Zealand, where I was told that they were forward-looking, forward-thinking. They wanted the best and the brightest because they wanted a bright new future for their country. I said, great. They also said everybody was very friendly. I said, great. Got there. 6 years of programming could not cover the truth. And as bad as American women are, New Zealand women are so much worse. So don't concern yourself so much of the corruption of the government. Look at how far the corruption has touched the people of that country. That's why I liked the Czech Republic. The people were not really contaminated by the corruption of their own government. Last week, they stood up. Today, they're standing up and saying no to hatred and thievery and lying. So yeah, I like the Czech Republic. I want to go back there. I'd like to stay there and live. I'd like to stay there and work, because as corrupt as their government is, the people aren't. All governments are corrupt. But look at the people. That should be where you decide. It's up to you. May you live as long as you wish. May you love as long as you live. For the 2012fad.com, this is Charlie Bluehawk. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel finding his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race, their black magic, captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.